Have you ever wanted a peek into somebody else's homeschool? Well, that's what we're going to do today. I am going to pull back the curtain of my homeschool and let you in, let you come see how we do things. I homeschool a 10, 8, and a 6-year-old, but then we have a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old clucking around too. They're part of the mix, and so I really feel like you're gonna just glean some ideas today and walk away with like maybe some ideas of routine, of curriculum, of spaces. I'm gonna give you a little bit of like my method and how I think about my homeschool. So we're gonna cover all of that today, and at the very end I'm gonna talk about how to keep littles busy and help them feel a part of it, but then also be able to get stuff done with your bigs. I am no homeschool expert. I feel like I have to say that, but of course we're all learning all the time. Our journey's not done. I feel like even a mom that's seasoned 15 years of homeschool could still be learning. And so if we're not learning and growing, how can we expect our kids to be learning and growing? All to say, I'm not an expert, but I have learned a lot in the 5 years of homeschooling that I can't wait to share with you today. Hey, my name is Lana. This is Girl Teach Me. This whole channel is just to help you be a more intentional mother, to help you enjoy motherhood a little bit more. And if that resonates with you, I hope you'll hit subscribe. I would love to have you here, hit the bell, all the things, and let's get going. So the first thing I want to talk about is my method / my routine. So my method is a little bit more of like a gentle, relationship focused homeschool model, and more focused on skills and character. And my big why for homeschooling is my faith. I really just want to share my faith with my kids and know their hearts and know what they're struggling with, and just to be able to teach them lots of scripture. So that's my big why. I'd say I probably resonate most with the Charlotte Mason method, but I'm still learning a lot. Like, I could barely quote anything from Charlotte Mason. There are a lot of great ways to mother, and there's a lot of great methods for homeschool, and so no shame to any other method. I think I just really love good books. That's probably one of my favorite parts of homeschool, is just sharing really good books and stories with my kids. I kind of feel like I'm reliving a little bit of my childhood too, and just stories that maybe I missed along the way. So that's like one of my favorite parts of homeschool, is just reading aloud, but we'll get to that. So my friend Brittany from Cheers and Prayers made this little checkoff sheet, and I actually saw it in her home, and I was like, Brittany, I want that. So she made me a copy. If there is some kind of copy that you can have access to by the time that this video goes live, I will leave it down below. But regardless, you should go follow her. She's amazing, so inspirational. At the top of it, it says, "This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." And that is so important to remember, because our days are limited with our kids in our home. I know it feels like it will go on forever, but already my 10-year-old, I only have 8 more years, with him in my home. And so, just savoring all that time and just remembering that every day that we get with our kids is such a gift. And that's what I love about homeschool, is it just gives you so much more time. I can't remember what the exact time is. I'll put it right here. But like how many extra hours we gain back with our kids as a homeschool mom is so encouraging to me, that I have my kids for, 18 years-ish in my home. I want all that I can with them. And then sometimes I want a little bit of a break, but for the most part, I want a lot of time with them. And so let's talk about how I spend that time. They know how to check this thing off, even if they're not a reader. The pictures, they know what they are. I leave an expo marker over there. These are laminator pouches that are good for dry erase markers. I feel like a staple for being a homeschool mom is just having a good laminator. Somebody gave me one, and I'm like, I should have bought this a long time ago. It's so handy to have. So get a good laminator. I'll leave the one down below that I have. There's so many good ones. So morning task: make bed, brush teeth, get dressed. And then the next one is Bible and breakfast. My husband actually does this for us. He's using a Bible resource that my friends got us. I just love it. I'll leave all this link down below for you, because I can't think of the name right now, but it's such a sweet little book, and he reads just a tiny chapter of that, and they eat while he's reading. I mean, I just want to keep the kids' hands busy, because it's just more than likely he's going to get a quieter group and a more respectful group. And so we do that. We pair that together and we linger there. And then he might wrap up, and then I will try to roll straight into scripture memory. I want to pack as much scripture into my kids' little backpacks. They're backpacks for life. If they can have all that backpack of truth there, that is just stored up in their heart and their mind, that will come to them in their time of need throughout their adult life, like that feels like a solid win for me. So just putting that first. Memorized the Romans Road. We just moved on to like the listening portion. 2 Timothy 3:16, I think we learned today. So we're just trying to layer it on, like maybe like one verse a week. We're doing that. And then we will try to make a joyful noise. So just putting like Living Hope or something on like our Siri is just a way to sing, and it's relaxing, it's unifying to sing. We love to do that. I think it'd be really cool if I could play an instrument, but I don't know how. And so just singing to some music we know is really sweet. Then we will start couch time read alouds. That's when the kids will go grab their little thing to keep their hands busy. So maybe some Magnetiles or some Duplos for my 3-year-old. And some of those can be just really great to honestly get on Macari or something like that, like a used website. You can get some great little tinker objects and you don't even have to pay full price. My oldest has just recently learned how to do embroidery through co-op. That's been really cool for him to learn, like almost like a handy skill with his hand. I think they've done some whittling before too, until one of my sons like nicked half of his thumbnail off. That's another story for another time. But, you know, just some handicraft stuff can really be a cool way for them to expand their skills, but also be listening to the story. But even just little Legos. And then after that, I have them do notebooking. And this is something I learned from Jody Maccabee, but basically every kid has their notebook, which is plain paper in it, and they're gonna write a sentence. Like if they had to tell my husband what they read about that day, let's say in Little Britches, that's what we're going through right now. So here's what a read aloud morning might look like while the kids have some steamed milk. The day after we got the new horse, Father and I went to Fort Logan with the box wagon. Fanny took Bill's place, but she didn't like that a bit. I guess she had forgotten all that she had learned in the spring without working double. What would they say that Ralph did in Little Britches that day? And so I will help them spell, or I will write it for them. Like my 3-year-old, I write it for her and she's just trying to like trace over the top, and she'll draw a picture of whatever. And then I'll put them in little sleeves because sometimes they're getting ripped out. And by the end of the year, they'll have like a whole collection of little memories from the books they read. And I think it'll be fun to go back through and kind of like, oh, remember when we read that in Little Britches or Little House on the Prairie? And so I think it's a fun way to kind of like remember the story adventures that we've gone on, but also handwriting is on here. And so it says handwriting or typing. Typing.com is a fun thing for the kids. Just doing that handwriting counts for me for handwriting for the day. And then we kind of roll into some things they can do on their own, which is good because I need a break by that point. I'm like, I need to refill my coffee and I need a moment and I need to do some dishes and you need to go outside. So they go outside for like 30 minutes and that's on this checkoff sheet too, so I can kind of motivate them to do that. And they'll go play for a little while, and that's kind of a nice reset. And then I'll have one kind of go do their 30 minutes of independent reading. Now, if they can't read yet, they sit down with a big stack of books and they just picture cruise. And I'll start language arts or math with another one of them. And then they can also go do an art or craft on their own too. We just kind of keep it super simple. On co-op days on Wednesdays, they get a lot of like extra little things. Oh, another thing we do is we might have a snack and we might listen to Story of the World on Audible. That's like the history we're kind of going through. That's really our rhythm. And another thing that's on here that I absolutely love is do something kind or helpful for someone. And that really helps the kids start to get out of their mode of like, what am I doing for myself, to, okay, let's think about others. So I love that that's on the list too. So that's our routine. I painted these dressers green and used these leather pulls. I just love them. That's a really great idea. If you need to like have smaller storage, just get a dresser and paint it up pretty and use it in the homeschool space. But I also love when people use like china cabinets and things like that. That can be really beautiful too. And just getting creative with whatever you have. But I like to put things kind of away. I feel like for me, ADHD wise, like if I see too much stuff out, it kind of overwhelms me. So I used a labeler so I wouldn't forget where things should go. These drawers get trashed from time to time and I have to like kind of reset them, but it is pretty handy. This built-in cabinet was here, so I just used that. I could probably organize that better. But this hall closet, this was a game changer when I started putting the things down below that they would use for the read aloud time and putting the things up high that I don't want them to dig out. That's really important for me. I don't want them to have access to dig that stuff out just whenever they want to. That's a nightmare. So like the paints and the puzzles and the things like that, I keep that way high. Okay, so this is the homeschool closet. So originally this was just all like linens and towels, but I realized it would be far more useful if I put some homeschool stuff in here. So these are just some baskets of things I want to kind of keep put away. And then when I go to declutter the trash bags, keeping them right there. It's like all of our watercolor supplies, little games back here. And then glue guns, sheet protectors, These are like little Velcro strips. These are circuit games. And then to do little bracelets with my daughter. And then we keep a lot of our Peaceful Press stuff. My friend gave me like a Hooked on Phonics book, but it's actually really helpful because it's got some good little ABC charts in there. So I kind of deconstructed that box to pull out what I needed. Some more ABC stuff, some I Spy books they can look at while I'm reading, and usually keep Yodos and stuff like that in here. And then, hold on, shh. And then just like our notebooks for notebooking and for co-op, and then our all about reading stuff right there. So just helped a lot to have it where the baby can't constantly be pulling stuff out. A long homeschool table. Y'all, I like coveted a long homeschool table. I'm telling you, don't have to have it. It's not essential. You can do so much at the kitchen island. We had a friend give us a good deal on one, so I was blessed with that. A table is helpful, and we also don't sit there as much as you think we might. So just saying that in case you're not in a season where you can have a big long homeschool table. It's totally fine. And then we just outside. I mean, I don't know many Charlotte Mason quotes, and I'm not going to quote this correctly, but she basically said, like, why would you ever spend a day inside that you could spend outside? And I think that's so true. Like, teaching our kids to see outside as an extension of the house if you have access to an outside space. Taking math outside, taking reading outside. Take as much as you can outside. It just is recharging to be out in the sunshine. It's good for us, and it's going to keep the house a little cleaner and get some wiggles out. And then our kitchen, like, just letting the kids help me as much as possible in the kitchen. That's great for their confidence and their skills. I got them some kid cutting knives, and they crack eggs for me. Shells get in there, but I would rather fish out shells than I would clean up glitter. So choose your hard. I'd rather have their help in a practical thing like cooking. So that's more of my jam. The absolute essential thing that keeps me sane is 10-minute cleanups. I turn on some fun music. I set a 10-minute timer, and they know that we are going to work consistently for 10 minutes to clean up our space, cleaning up anything on the ground that shouldn't be there. I'm kind of more like coach versus like picking up. Sometimes I get in a mode where I'm just cleaning up and they're like dawdling. So as long as I'm like coach mom, I'm like, all right, come on, we just got 10 minutes, and then we can move on to that fun thing, and just really trying to channel as much Mary Poppins as I can and not be mean mama. I do not succeed at this all the time. But if they can understand that mama wants to do something fun with them, but I'm going to need some teamwork first, they're usually a bit more on board to just, as we call it, swarm and help and buzz around and clean up. And then I just want to say too, like, I just don't get a lot of stuff. Like, I try to keep it really minimal because it honestly is very overwhelming to have too much stuff. And sometimes we can feel like when we're homeschooling, if I just had this and this and this, my homeschool would be so much better. Like, not necessarily. And my friend Margaret teaches a decluttering course, and I'm telling you, there's some homeschool mamas, we need to declutter. There's too much stuff everywhere. And when you have too much stuff, you can't use the stuff wisely, and you don't know what you have, and you buy duplicates. And honestly, it's hard to get a lesson together when you have to dig through a bunch of stuff. So keeping it super minimal and purging at the end of the year is a great thing to do. And then the curriculum that we're using this year, I was using Good and the Beautiful, and I really did like it. It was beautiful, and it was open and go, and I liked that. But honestly, we needed to pivot because we have some readers, but we need better readers. My kids are just struggling a little bit when it comes to writing their own stuff. And so I switched to All About Reading. I am enjoying it so far. I will admit I'm at the beginning of the journey, but I have heard time and time again from other mamas, it's a little bit of setup, but it is really good. And now that I'm into using it, it really is so great. The next thing I use and love is Peaceful Press. I love the heart of Jennifer Pepito and her resources. I cannot tell you enough. If you're just on the beginning of the homeschool journey, get Peaceful Preschool. It's so good. I love it. And then I scaled way back with math this year. I'm just doing a lot of math facts, a lot of math worksheets, because I did Good and Beautiful math last year, which was actually a really great foundation, but I don't have the time to sit down with each kid for 30 to 45 minutes and do the math. So I just felt like I wanted to go more in on reading and writing this year and scale back math. And I think that's what's great about homeschool is when you feel like you see the needs of your kids, you can tailor your homeschool accordingly. So that's what I'm doing this year. And then just really focusing on good books. I'm rolling back through the Playful Pioneers curriculum with Peaceful Press. I already had all the books. I'm doing Cycle 2 with Little Britches. I didn't really have the funds to invest in a ton of new books this year. And honestly, we haven't read them all. So I'm like, let's just do it again. And that's what's really fun about it is you can do it over and over again and still get a ton of value. you without switching curriculums all the time or getting tons and tons of new books all the time. And then I added Story of the World. I've heard some good things about it and I just wanted to check it out. So I got it on Audible and we are enjoying it. Like I feel like she does tell you like what's happening around the world in a linear way. And so I'm enjoying that. And that's nice to put something on Audible. I wish I had done that sooner because it does give me a little bit of a mama break. I can be doing some things around the kitchen. They can be listening, eating a snack, and we're still getting school done. And then Bible resources, we used Theology last year. Beautiful pictures, beautiful, just rich theology. I highly recommend that one. You know, if you have littles, it could be Jesus Storybook Bible. This new one, our friends got us. Matt is really enjoying that one. So those are good resources. And I love the little book, like 100 verses everyone should know. It adds like a tidbit with every verse. So that's been really great. It's not necessarily like curriculum, but we're using it like that. And some fun things for littles is just activities that they can do to stay busy. Like I said, Magna-Tiles, Duplo blocks. You can get that kind of stuff off Macari used. You can go to thrift stores and look for some of that. Wooden blocks. Oh my goodness, I have 2 sets of Melissa and Doug wooden blocks. Those things are endless. Those shift into different worlds all the time. Like even wooden train sets, they add the wooden blocks. So I can't say enough of that. Like if they have some little things they're excited about, even like some puzzles that are age appropriate that they only get to play with during read aloud time, that's really great. But then also just letting them have room time, like letting them know, okay, 30 minutes in your room, and it's a little bit of training, but then they'll start to look forward to that time. If there's special toys they can only play with during that time. And I think that's what's really helpful is kind of like giving them certain things during certain times and they just get in that rhythm and they look forward to it. The other thing is, especially if you have littles that are boys, it's going to be really important that you get those wiggles out early and you kind of exert them. Maybe you go on a walk or a run together and then try to sit down and do the individual learning with your bigs. It's just hard, especially with little boys. I've been there, done that, and they need to get their wiggles out. So my big heart with homeschooling is like we're preparing them for a future. With AI, they're going to be able to look up anything in the future, but they can't look up the character of who they are, and they can't look up like, just like a deep knowledge of scripture, tons of memory of scripture, knowing who Jesus is and loving him. Like those are the things they can't look up, like skills with their hands, hard work, grit. And so those are the kinds of things I'm trying to put into my homeschool, not just dumping a bunch of knowledge in their head like a bucket. Like I want to light a fire, like I think it's the William Butler Yeats quote, an education is like a lighting of a flame. And so I'm looking for the things they're interested in and trying to get them the resources for the tinker things. Like one of my kids loves to tinker with stuff and he's like, are there more things I can take apart? So I gave him like 2 old laptop computers. So just trying to like fuel that flame a little bit. I think the last thing is like if our homeschool is, it's a little bit like when you butt heads and that's fine, but if it's really driving us apart, it's really defeating the purpose. And so my hope is that our homeschool like brings us together. And so if I notice something is not bringing us together, it's like kind of like, maybe we need to tackle the heart issue or maybe it needs to go. Like we shouldn't have tears with spelling or handwriting. Like, yes, let's push through and be resilient. But if it's so many checked boxes that it's breaking relationship, I think it's defeating the purpose. Kind of like sports parents when they're driving their kids so hard with sports, but the kid ends up like hating the parent and hating the sport. Like the goal is for them to love learning, and to love us and have a good, deep relationship. So I think that's just the way I try to see it for homeschool. If you had to start anywhere, I'd say get the Peaceful Press preschool guide. It's a great place to start. Great resources, great just parent guide at the beginning. That's like my number one place I tell people to start. Grab that guide. She will point you in the right direction. I love homeschooling. Like I say, choose your hard. I think the moms that take their kids to school, it's hard packing lunches. It's hard doing carpool line, all the things. This is just the hard that we've chosen as homeschool mamas. And I'm happy I've chosen this hard. And I just hope the journey has been sweet for you so far and that you feel encouraged to maybe pursue that journey if it's something that's on your heart and mind. There's 2 other videos that could be really helpful for you. One is all the books that have just helped me with womanhood and motherhood, but also there's a guide there on that video with like my top homeschool books. That could be really helpful. The other one is what you need to know before you start homeschooling. And it's what I wish I had known before I got started, like a heart behind homeschool. I think you should go watch that video too. I think it could be really helpful. And before you go, I hope you hit subscribe and I'll see you again in the next video.
Sometimes you might need a helping hand, just like iron sharpens iron, making me stronger, calling me higher. When we come together, just like iron sharpens Zion, making us stronger, calling us higher. When we're helping each other, we're growing together.